Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching From Season 4, Episode 2, and this one is just as strong for me as the first. I do think the pacing of the first was unbeatable, but this just has that same sort of drive. And guys, I'm telling you, before we even get into anything else about this story, if this momentum continues, man, this is going to be my favorite season of the show. I just have to point that out because we had some big moments. We had everything, and we're going to jump into major spoilers. We had the big moments with Jim. We had more of a revelation of Sophia. We've had things with Acosta. There was so much out there, and there were so many moments that I absolutely loved. A couple things I had some questions about, and in general, let's just dive right into this outstanding episode. So we open up where the first episode pretty much left off. We hear Sophia crying as Kenny wakes up, and it turns out Sophia, or should I say the man in yellow, is outside and crying outside. So Kenny has to go and get her, and when Kenny goes to get her, all the monsters come. But then nothing came of it. So to me, it's like, okay, we have this big reveal that Sophia is the man in yellow, and then her first thing is to just go outside and do nothing really serious, but just like, I guess, lightly rattle him. And I think that's the direction that this is going to seem to go in. After this episode, it makes it a little bit more clear to me. I feel like what the man in yellow's job isn't going to be to come in and just immediately start, killing people and going crazy. Sophia's main goal is to just loosely, mentally destabilize everyone in the group. And it makes me think that her goal there is not to just be the only one who isn't trusted. No one can be trusted. There's no way, because with these powers, with the fact that she could literally just touch people, give them seizures and all of that stuff, or wake them up and all of that, that tells me that this is an omnipotent force that is going to do way more than just killing people. This is going to torment everyone there because they are going to probably go down a further rabbit hole of doing and seeing and feeling these things, just like what Sarah felt and just like, what others felt, which is actually tackled later in this episode with Tabitha and Jim. We're going to come back to that because I have some opinions about that, and we'll come back to that. But I have a feeling that that's what Sophia, the man in yellow's responsibility with coming into the story at this point in time is. It's not to just go around ripping people's throats out like we saw him do with Jim. It's a slow Cold War tactic style where everyone's just going to go further and further mad, and then you can't trust anyone, because if it infects people the way it infected Sarah, you can't trust any of those people. So that's my take. That was a little bit of a spiel, but that's where we open up. We open up with her crying outside. And then immediately after that, we get the scene of Boyd and Elgin talking about how they are going to address that situation and what happened in season 3, episode 10. I'm glad we didn't have to wait for that either. And it turns out the way they're going to handle it is Elgin is going to be in a position where he has to tell people that he lost his eye saving or helping Fatima give birth and all of that. And if he doesn't go along with it, he's going to make sure, Boyd is going to make sure he tells everyone that Elgin killed Tilly and put Elgin in the box. So there was an interesting thing there where Elgin replies back saying the truth always comes out. And the way they pinpointed Elgin's character at the end of season 3 is one that I know we're not supposed to really like or root for, and that's clearly by design, because even though he is clearly a good person and has this good, strong background, he's pinpointed in a way just like Sarah, where the town told him something that wasn't true. The town lied to him. So I feel for him, and I hope this just wasn't his whole arc. I do hope we get more of him and something good comes of his character, and it wasn't all for nothing other than just to show this in another way. So I hope that's the case. Afterwards, after this happens, we see Acosta in the diner, and she gets woken up to the stereo thing, jukebox, you call it, and it's playing a cover of Good Morning by the Beatles, which is a favorite Beatles song of mine. I'm a big Beatles fan, so that was great to hear. I was like, yo, they did this this and from? Like, how'd they get this? I was so hype about that. And then we get a cool little montage leading up to Boyd coming out of Colony House. And when he comes out of Colony House, he must have bionic fucking vision, because across the town, he could see a small little bag covered in blood on the motel sign. So he pulls out his binoculars and he sees it. So his bionic eyes reveal that he could see that there is some sort of bag hanging from the motel sign. Instantaneously, everyone starts to think that bag is Jim. That's what we're meant to believe. That's what the townspeople are meant to believe. Tabitha comes outside. Ethan goes running towards it, and Julie comes outside. And they're panicking, of course, because, I mean, it looks like it's probably going to be Jim. So Tabitha, I don't know why she thought to do this, and I don't know how this all came together. Like, the man in yellow, before we even get into the reveal, there was a lot of orchestrating that had to go on to get it calculated perfectly on the man in yellow's part, to be like, Tabitha's going to send the kids to the barn, and then this is going to be a decoy. You know what I mean? There was a lot of little like things there that I'm like, okay, how do they do that? But I actually think it is kind of believable, right? Tabitha doesn't want her kids to see him coming down, so she sends them to a place where they enjoy. We know Ethan enjoys it and all of that stuff. But anyway, that orchestration is great. As they start to go to the barn, they bring down the thing from the motel, the bloody bag from the motel, and it's basically, I think it's a ram or a lamb. It's a dead ram, lamb, something in there. And as they open it up, Tabitha's getting ready to see that it's Jim, but it's not. And then right after that, you see the shot of Julie and Ethan opening the barn and revealing Jim's body. So now we have concrete proof that Jim is not an imposter. Jim is officially dead. And I'm not gonna lie, what a sick and twisted game they're playing. And like, not only that, what a gruesome death. That's one of those deaths that is just going to stick with me. The way his face looked, the way they got him, all of that just really, really stuck with me. I mean, as far as like gruesome and like all of that stuff goes, I thought it was gnarly. It was good, but man, what a sinister freaking game. And then written on the wall next to it is knowledge comes at a cost, which obviously rattles Tabitha, not only because she sees her husband like that, and so do the kids, but because this is clearly a direct knowledge comes at a cost is clearly a direct giveaway that what happened to her and Jade is real. And we get that later in the episode. Again, we are going to come to that because I do have some feelings about that. But I like that when everyone comes in, obviously Julie and Ethan are a wreck from it. Tabitha's a wreck from it. And then we even get shots of like Donna and Boyd clearly really worried about this and really bothered by this. So I thought that was great. And I'm glad that we got this when we did. And we didn't get it too far out. I was genuinely worried going into this season that they were kind of going to drag this story out a little bit and make the reveal much later. Once, like, in my head, I thought maybe it'd be like we'd have the trials and tribulations of Julie's story walking, then we get the reveal of how she saw the man in yellow or something. Like, that's kind of like where my head was going with it. I thought they would drag it out a lot more, and I'm very glad they didn't. Not that I thought that in a negative way, I just didn't think it was going to happen like super quickly. So I'm glad we did, and I'm glad we're getting this now and kind of, in a sense, ripping this band-aid off, because usually in this show, when there is a big character death, just like there is with this one, that means it's going to drive the story in a certain direction. And I really have faith that that is exactly where that goes. So gnarly death scene, gnarly reveal there. But I'm glad we got it in episode 2 and not too much further. And it was just a sad moment, because like the one thing I love the most about the show is it's not afraid to do big, bold things like kill off the guy that everyone thought was going to be our lead protagonist for the show. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of protagonists. Boyd's clearly a protagonist, all of that stuff. But we came into this town through Jim and his family, and for him to be killed over this is just telling of what these writers and where this story in general is going to go and what these writers are capable of. So I'm very excited to see what this moment has and does to impact the rest of the season. I think there's a lot there that is going to be explored, and we do get some of that later with Julie story walking to try to find her dad, but we're going to get into that. Afterwards, we cut back to Sophia and Kenny praying. We start actually, Sophia is smiling at her dead fake father that she killed. And then Kenny comes in, and then they go out, they go to the barn, or they leave to go out to the barn and all of that stuff. So after that little scene, then we get Ethan, Tabitha, and Julie back in the house. And it was a really sad moment where Ethan starts to blame Tabitha and saying that he hates her and all of that stuff. And it's just so sad for Tabitha because she's in such this mixed bag where she just discovered that she's Miranda. She just discovered how Jade and her were here for centuries over and over again on this loop. And now her husband's dead because of that revelation that they couldn't really control. And now the son is saying that the son is saying, Jesus, I couldn't get this out, is blaming Tabitha. Ethan is blaming Tabitha. That's a really sad moment for her. And I really do think Tabitha's actress's abilities in this show so far have been absolutely wonderful. And it's been great to see because Tabitha has developed into one of my favorite characters just because of the nuance there. But anyway, after that, so we see a shot of Donna looking as they're cleaning up Jim's body, looking at that knowledge comes at a cost sign. And it really shows how much this town has terrified her. We've seen I don't want to call it a de-evolution of Donna, but we've seen Donna go from a more really strong concrete foundation in the beginning to really seeing her vulnerable side over these seasons. And now I feel like Donna's in this place where she is just terrified. And it's good to see that our leaders, the ones the whole Frumley, the whole crew is supposed to get behind, is really, really broken. It's a small moment, but I love it. And I love that right after Donna's like, I'm going to go check on Tabitha. And now Donna's going to be playing sort of almost like a motherly role to these kids. I do think that's going to be a great development in there. Afterwards, we see Boyd and Ellis bring Jim to the church. And at that moment, Jade says that he has to talk to Boyd. And finally, we have a moment where our characters are actually talking about things that are happening. I think there has been an issue with this show where these characters are not speaking. And when they do speak, they don't believe each other for some reason. As if all of the shit that's happened to them isn't outlandish enough. They don't believe when the next outlandish thing happens. I'm glad we're finally getting to see this in the sense that Jade is coming to Boyd right away and talking to him about what happened in the woods. It's directly revealing about how I do feel like these writers know exactly where they're going with this story and know they're done fucking around with just giving us questions and not going anywhere with it. Before we get to all of that, there's another scene where Sarah and Sophia meet, and Sarah takes Sophia to the diner so she could get new glasses. And it was funny for a minute. Kenny was so hesitant to let Sarah go. But in my head, on the back of my mind, I'm like, bro, it's a man in yellow. Of course, like, just let him go. Let her go. But anyway, obviously, Sarah doesn't know that. So they go off to the barn. Then we cut back to Jade explaining to Boyd what happened with the kids and how Jade believes that Jim was killed specifically because of what her and Tabitha found out. And basically, it came to the point where it was reminded of what Boyd says, it reminds him of what Sarah's brother said, that if you push too hard, something will push back. And that's directly what's happening here. It's very clear that that's the direction it goes in. So then we get the scenes of Sarah talking to Acosta in the diner. Acosta's still being all whiny and miserable. I really don't know why they're keeping her in this way. And we're going to get to that because they're making her really unlikable. I really hope that there is a reason for that and that she comes around later on, because right now they're just constantly writing her in this unlikable way. And that honestly sucks. So as this stuff is going on, Randall's doing his lifting that he's always doing, and Julie goes up to him and basically tells Randall exactly what just happened and that she wants Randall's help to go back to the ruins so she could figure out what the hell is going on. After the whole Jade and Boyd thing with something pushing back, Jade then goes to the barn where Tabitha is trying to scrub off the knowledge comes out of cost writing on the walls. And this is honestly, I'm very mixed on this part of the episode. Tabitha, understandably, Tabitha is terrified because it is revealed that what her and Jade discovered is in fact directly killed Jim. Basically, that's what happens. And it is, I do sympathize with Tabitha because she's terrified because she has her kids there and all of that stuff. But to be honest, it does feel a little jarring. And her not to care if what happened was real or not. Like, Jade has a good moment where he says to her just outright bluntly that because of what happens, that it proves that this is real. There's no speculation. And it's just weird to me to see Tabitha, who was already so driven up to what we got, to immediately be like, I don't give a fuck you, it should have been you, Jade, all of that stuff. That was so jarring. But again, I do understand it. In the moment, though, I feel a little mixed. Just admittedly, I feel a little mixed. On one hand, I completely understand why she'd feel that way. She'd be terrified because what they did had a direct result and what that could mean for her children. But on the other hand, this is clearly the key to getting home in some way, because why else would they be pushing this hard, and why else would they set this example if not to stop the group from doing anything? That's exactly what's happening, and I'm excited that means that this is where the season is going, clearly. And I know in this moment it had to be that she's broken down. I don't blame her for it. It's just a little frustrating because I do feel like up to this point in the story, a lot of our characters have these moments where they have this big reveal and then they pull back, this big reveal and then they pull back. And look, I do wholeheartedly believe we're going to see a change within the season of that. But in this moment, it was definitely a little jarring. People grieve however they want to grieve. And that's one of the things I like the most about this show is it knows how to dial up the realism of people's emotions. And I do genuinely believe if this were a real scenario, Tabitha would be feeling this way right after this happening. But it's just a little jarring as a viewer to see, to be completely honest. So there's that. And we get that scene. I hope they come together. Afterwards, we get the scene of Acosta finally just having a breakdown, and she takes the ambulance. And as she goes to take the ambulance, Christy gets in the ambulance with her, and then they drive off. And I just honestly, like, I hope they do something with her character, because she feels a lot like how Randall did to me in the beginning. Randall has came around for me, but you can't do Randall twice. That's what it feels like. And it feels like they are doing Randall twice right now. And I just don't know that I like this direction. I completely understand that it's great to see we have these characters who are coming into the town and they don't believe people. And I think that does add a nice drama piece to the story. But they're not doing anything to make Acosta a good character. Right now, I feel like they're just pointing her as a bad person constantly. So that's all really that comes to that. They drive around as Acosta tries to find a way out. They pass Ethan, who, I'm jumping a bit because they broke this scene down in a bit, but as they're doing the loops, they eventually pass Ethan, who is out on the road, and we're going to get to the biggest part of this later. But then eventually Boyd stops them with the spikes and Acosta gets arrested. So that's that whole thing. And the only reason I bring all this up now and just want to run through this is because it doesn't do much other than just get me to hate Acosta more. And I hope that changes, because there is no way she was introduced for nothing. There is no way. She is a cop. She could be a great partner to Boyd. There is so much foundation there that I hope they're setting up some sort of redemption, because why else would they be pointing her so negatively throughout the story? I do sympathize with her. I understand what she's going through, but they keep pointing her in this way where I'm like, fuck Acosta. I don't want any part of this character. So I hope that changes. We get a couple more things, but I want to get to the biggest thing. Just let me run through a couple of these. Sarah and Sophia are in the supply room, and there was just this one interesting moment, other than Sophia being sus as fuck, because she is sus. There's this one moment where she looks at the ballerina statue fondingly, or is that a word? Fondingly? She looks at it fondly. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm 20 minutes into recording this video. I'm starting to lose my mind, and I didn't even get to the best part of this episode yet. Anyway, she sees that, and I wonder if we're going to get more of something with this ballerina then, because why else would they have that moment where she looks longingly at this thing? I think that's the word I was trying to say, not fondingly. What is happening? Anyway, some point later on, Ethan sneaks out of the house and goes towards the woods. That's why when the ambulance passes, they see Ethan in the woods. And what it amounts to is Ethan is going to the RV to get some things. He's going to the RV to look for the radio and just go over there and I guess just try to do his own investigative digging and all of that stuff. We're going to come back to that in a moment, because before that happens, Randall and Julie do go to the ruins. And when they go to the ruins, she walks in and she's immediately brought to the moment where where Donna, Jim, and Boyd are in the RV, and Jim and Donna have to leave. So they leave, and she sees this. So she sees her dad, and it proves that she could story walk. And then she sees Boyd coming out and testing the bullets on the monsters. But then as she's screaming out to her father, one of the monsters comes and grabs Julie. And I think that is absolutely fascinating. So she is still very much, she could story walk, but this is still very much a real living person story walking. And I'd imagine if Randall didn't pull her out sooner, or if Randall didn't pull her out when he did, maybe she could have died there. I don't know what the rules are of story walking, but it's really interesting. And I guarantee you we're not done with it, because why would they only show this moment? I feel like we have to be seeing more of it in the episodes to come. But for this immediate moment, it was fascinating to see that she goes in, she sees all of them, and it proves that she could do what she is set out to do. So I'm so excited to see where it goes. After that, we get a scene with Tabitha visiting Jim's body, and Tabitha's monologue in that moment was honestly wonderful. I do love Tabitha, and I think she's really coming around and getting better and better in every single scene that she's in. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. It was a beautiful monologue that she gave over Jim's body. And after that, then we see Henry looking for Victor in the barn. Victor's acting is just great as always. And I love that the dad came into the barn to look for him. It was just such a wonderful thing, because Victor is clearly in this state where he doesn't want to lose anyone else. And he's saying that his dad shouldn't have came here. And it's an interesting dynamic for Henry. And I'm interested to see where that goes with Henry altogether this season. I think that's something that we're going to, probably see more of develop over time. So anyway, all of that happens. Now we have the big moment at the ending of the episode. Ethan goes to the trailer. Like I said, he's looking for supplies. He takes the radio from inside of it with him. And as he's coming out, he sees Jim, which is exciting to me, because that means in some capacity, Jim is going to possibly be this Father Khatri style figure to Ethan. But that's not even the interesting part. What's really interesting is what happens and what he says. And before we even get into it, I am going to be making a whole separate video. It's going to be released tomorrow. So Monday, you will be seeing a video of me breaking down this moment entirely, because I think so far it's one of the biggest reveals of the show. But Jim is there sitting on the log right across from where he was killed, and he looks terrified. He keeps looking off at something. I think it's probably he's looking for the man in yellow and worried that he's going to come and hurt Ethan. I think that makes the most sense as to what he's looking at, but he comes with an urgent message. And the only thing about this show is you never know what is like real and good or bad and disguised as being good. He tells Ethan that he needs to do something really important for him. Jim reminds Ethan about the night that they were in the RV and that Ethan had a dream about the Lake of Tears. And Jim tells Ethan that the Lake of Tears is here and that Ethan needs to find it. So this is a big moment, guys. I have a lot to talk about with it. Anyway, we'll get to it. Tabitha then calls out. I guess she followed him behind after Boyd found out that Ethan was on the road. And then when Ethan turns around, Jim is gone. So this is a big moment. I think this is one of the biggest reveals of the show, because to me, it reveals that Ethan has like the key to this. And the key is the Flight of the Chromonocle. That book details literally exactly what happens and how to overcome this loop that they are in. It's mentioned in episode 1 and episode, I think it is 4. We're going to come back to it tomorrow. So again, get subscribed. I have a video deep diving all of this tomorrow. But there's a couple moments in episode 1 of the show, and then I think episode 4 or 5 or 6, one of those where Ethan talks about his toy Norman going to the Lake of Tears so that the fairies can bring him back to life. And he ties that same idea of the fairies bringing him back to life to his baby brother who passed away, Thomas, pretending Thomas went on a quest to save the kingdom. This is really interesting to me because this tells me that Jim is basically setting Ethan up to be the one who finds this Lake of Tears to end the loop. Then it made me think about a lot of other things and a lot of other theories, and I'm running 26 minutes into this video. I cannot possibly go into the theories of it. That's why I'm saving it for tomorrow. So get subscribed. Tomorrow we're going to be talking all about the Lake of Tears. We have a lot to unpack there, and the Flight of the Chromonocle. We have a lot to unpack with that. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. It is the biggest moment of this show so far, the biggest reveal to me, in my opinion, and I can't wait to see where it goes from there. But with all that out of the way, I'd love to hear from you. Did you feel the same way about this episode? Do you feel differently? Can't wait to start a healthy conversation down there in the comments. And again, I said it twice, with all of that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.